I came home early and found my best friend in my wedding dress, beside my smiling fiancé. Hi everyone. Before we get into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel's reach has been dropping a bit, and one of the best ways you can support us is by subscribing. It's quick, free, and helps us keep bringing you new and interesting stories. Your support means the world to us, and together, we can grow this channel. Thank you so much. Now let's get to today's story. I'm writing from a temporary account for obvious reasons, and I've changed some details to protect my anonymity. I never believed in love at first sight until I met Daniel. It was 3 years ago, at a mutual friend's birthday party in Brooklyn. I had just gone through a terrible breakup and swore I was done with men for at least a year, maybe forever. I was standing by the kitchen counter, nursing a glass of wine, and pretending to be interested in the conversation about real estate prices, when he walked in. He wasn't the most handsome man in the room. He wasn't the loudest or the most charming. But when our eyes met across that crowded apartment, something inside me shifted. It sounds ridiculous now, like something from a cheap romance novel, but I felt it. A pull. A recognition. Like my soul knew him before my mind did. He approached me an hour later, after I'd moved to the balcony for some air. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere but here," he said, leaning against the railing beside me. I laughed. "Is it that obvious?" "Only to someone who feels the same way." He smiled, and it was genuine, reaching all the way to his eyes. "I'm Daniel." Emma. We talked until 3 in the morning, about everything and nothing, about our childhoods, our dreams, our fears. He told me about his mother, who had died when he was 16, and how he still visited her grave every Sunday. I told him about my father, who left when I was 8, and how I'd spent my whole life trying to prove I was worth staying for. By the time the party ended, I knew I was in trouble, the good kind of trouble. Our first date was at a small Italian restaurant in the West Village. He ordered for both of us without asking, which should have annoyed me, but somehow didn't. He'd remembered everything I'd mentioned liking during our conversation at the party. The attention to detail touched me more than any grand gesture could have. "I want to be honest with you," he said over dessert, reaching across the table to take my hand. "I'm not good at games. I'm not good at playing it cool. I like you, Emma, a lot, and I want to see where this goes." I should have been scared. I should have pulled back, protected my heart. Instead, I squeezed his hand and said, "Me too." The next 2 years were everything I'd ever dreamed of. Daniel was attentive, caring, thoughtful. He remembered the little things. He brought me coffee every morning, exactly how I liked it. He left notes in my purse for me to find during the day. He held me when I cried about work stress and celebrated every small victory like it was monumental. He proposed on a rainy Tuesday evening in our apartment. No fancy restaurant. No public spectacle. Just him, me, and a ring that had belonged to his grandmother. "I don't want to spend another day without knowing you'll be my wife," he said, down on one knee in our living room, rain pattering against the windows. "Marry me, Emma. Please." I said yes before he'd even finished the question. That night, I called Sarah. Sarah had been my best friend since college. We'd met during freshman orientation, two scared girls from small towns trying to navigate the chaos of New York University. We bonded over terrible dining hall food and even worse dating choices. She was there when my father showed up drunk at my graduation. She was there when I got my first job, and when I got fired from my second. She was there through every heartbreak, every triumph, every mundane Tuesday. When I told her about Daniel, she'd been cautiously optimistic. "Just be careful," she'd said. "You fall hard, Em. I don't want to see you hurt again." But over time, she'd grown to love him too. Or so I thought. The three of us spent countless evenings together. Movie nights, dinner parties, weekend trips upstate. She was the first person Daniel asked to help him plan the proposal, though he'd ultimately decided to do it his own way. When I called her that rainy Tuesday night, she screamed so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "Oh my God! Oh my God! Emma!" She was crying, laughing. I'm so happy for you. When? How? Tell me everything. I told her everything. Every detail, every word, every feeling. I'm coming over, she declared. Right now. We need to celebrate properly. She arrived 20 minutes later with a bottle of champagne and tears streaming down her face. She hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. You deserve this, she whispered into my hair. You deserve all the happiness in the world. The next months were a whirlwind of wedding planning. Sarah threw herself into it with the enthusiasm of someone planning her own wedding. She helped me research venues, taste cakes, interview photographers. She held my hand during the first dress fitting and cried when I found the one. It was a simple dress, elegant and timeless. Ivory silk with delicate lace sleeves and a chapel train. The moment I stepped out of the dressing room, I knew. That's it, Sarah breathed, her hand over her mouth. Emma, that's your dress. I looked at myself in the mirror, and for the first time in my life, I felt beautiful. Not pretty, not cute, beautiful. I'm getting married, I said, the reality of it hitting me all at once. Sarah came up behind me, resting her chin on my shoulder as we both looked at my reflection. You're getting married, to the man of your dreams, and I get to stand beside you when you do. I'd asked her to be my maid of honor the day after Daniel proposed. Of course I did. She was my person, my sister in all but blood. The months flew by. Daniel and I moved into a bigger apartment to make room for our future. We talked about children, about growing old together, about building a life that meant something. Every night, I fell asleep in his arms, feeling safer than I'd ever felt before. Sarah was there for all of it. She helped me choose flowers. She organized my bachelorette party. She listened to me stress about seating arrangements and whether we should have a band or a DJ. You're doing too much, I told her one evening over wine at my apartment. Daniel was working late, and we were addressing invitations. You don't have to be so involved. Are you kidding? She looked up from the invitation she was addressing, her eyes bright. This is what best friends do. Besides, I love it. I love seeing you this happy. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You're glowing, Em. Truly. Daniel is so lucky. I'm the lucky one, I said. You're both lucky. She smiled, and I remember thinking how beautiful she looked in that moment. How genuinely happy for me she seemed. 2 weeks before the wedding, Daniel started staying late at work more often. He was stressed about a big project, he said. His company was bidding on a major contract, and he needed to put in the hours to make sure everything was perfect. I'm sorry, he said, kissing my forehead as he left the apartment at 7 one morning. Just 2 more weeks, and then I'm all yours. Forever. I know, I said, straightening his tie. I understand. Just don't forget to eat. I won't. I love you. I love you too. Sarah filled the gaps. She came over almost every evening, keeping me company while I worked on final wedding details. We watched terrible reality TV and ate takeout and laughed until our sides hurt. I'm going to miss this, she said one night, curled up on my couch with a container of pad thai. Once you're married, you won't have time for girls' nights anymore. Don't be ridiculous, I said. Marriage doesn't mean the end of friendship. If anything, you'll probably see more of me. Daniel works too much. She smiled, but something in her expression seemed off. Sad, maybe, or wistful. What is it? I asked. Nothing. She shook her head. I'm just emotional. You're my best friend, and you're starting this whole new chapter. And I'm just really happy for you. You'll find your person too, I said, bumping my shoulder against hers. I know you will. Maybe. She looked away. Maybe I already have. What? I sat up straight, nearly spilling my wine. Are you seeing someone? Why didn't you tell me? No. She laughed, but it sounded forced. I just meant, hypothetically, maybe the person you're meant to be with is closer than you think. Well, when you meet him, I want to know immediately, I said. I want to grill him and make sure he's good enough for you. Deal. 1 week before the wedding, my mother flew in from Ohio. She'd been divorced from my father for 20 years and had spent most of that time telling me that all men were liars and marriage was a trap. But when she met Daniel, even she softened. "He's good to you," she said over dinner the first night. "I can see it, the way he looks at you, the way he listens when you talk. That's rare, Emma." "I know, Mom. Don't screw it up. Thanks for the vote of confidence." She laughed and reached across the table to pat my hand. "I'm serious. Hold on to this. Hold on to him." I intended to. The day before the wedding, I had a final fitting for my dress. Sarah came with me, of course, and my mother and Daniel's sister, Rachel. The four of us crammed into the small fitting room at the bridal boutique, and I stepped into my dress for what I thought would be the last time before the ceremony. It fit perfectly. The seamstress had taken it in slightly at the waist, and the length was exactly right with my heels. "Oh, Emma!" My mother's voice cracked. "You look like a princess." "You look like a bride," Rachel corrected, smiling. "A real bride." I turned to Sarah, who was standing in the corner, very still and very quiet. "What do you think?" I asked. She blinked rapidly, and I realized she was trying not to cry. "I think Daniel is the luckiest man alive." "Come here," I said, holding out my hand. She came over, and I pulled her into a hug, careful not to wrinkle the dress. "Thank you," I whispered, "for everything, for being here, for being you." "Always," she whispered back. The dress was packed carefully into a garment bag and loaded into my mother's rental car. The plan was for her to keep it at her hotel overnight, and then Rachel would bring it to the venue in the morning with the rest of the wedding party attire. That evening, Daniel and I had decided to spend our last night as an unmarried couple apart. He was staying at his brother's place across town, and I was having a quiet night at our apartment with my mother, Rachel, and Sarah. We ordered pizza and watched romantic comedies and painted each other's nails. It was perfect. Simple and perfect. "This is it," I said, looking around at the three women who meant the most to me. "Tomorrow, I become Emma Matthews." "To Emma Matthews," Rachel said, raising her glass of wine, "may your marriage be filled with love, laughter, and really good sex." We all laughed and clinked glasses. "Speech!" Sarah called out. "The bride needs to make a speech." "Oh God, no!" I protested. But they all started chanting, "Speech! Speech! Speech!" I stood up, laughing, wine sloshing slightly in my glass. Okay, fine. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being part of this journey. I never thought I'd find someone who made me feel the way Daniel does. Safe, seen, loved. And I never thought I'd be lucky enough to have people like you in my life. Tomorrow is going to be the best day ever, and I'm so glad you'll be there to share it with me. "To tomorrow," my mother said. "To tomorrow," we all echoed. The party broke up around midnight. My mother was tired from traveling, and Rachel needed to get home to her kids. Sarah offered to stay and help me clean up, but I shooed her away. "Go home and get some sleep," I said. "Tomorrow is going to be a long day." "Are you sure? I don't mind staying." "I'm sure. I'll see you in the morning, 8 o'clock sharp at the venue." She hugged me tightly at the door. Too tightly, I thought, but chalked it up to emotion. "I love you, Em," she said. "I love you too." After they all left, I cleaned up the apartment, took a long bath, and went to bed early. I wanted to be well rested for the biggest day of my life. I woke up at 6, too excited to sleep any longer. The wedding wasn't until 4, but I wanted to savor every moment of the day. I made coffee, did yoga, took my time getting ready for the venue. At 7:30, my phone rang. It was Rachel. "Emma, I'm so sorry," she said, sounding panicked. "The kids are sick. Stomach flu. I can't leave them, and I can't bring them to the wedding. I'm so sorry." "Oh no," I said, my heart sinking. "Is there anything I can do?" "No, just, I'm sorry. I know you were counting on me." Family comes first, I said, meaning it. Take care of those babies. We'll celebrate another time. After I hung up, I realized that meant I needed to pick up my dress from my mother's hotel myself. She wasn't feeling well either, she'd texted. Not the flu, just exhausted and needing a few extra hours of sleep before the ceremony. No problem. I could handle it. I got dressed quickly, jeans and a t-shirt, and headed out. The hotel was only 20 minutes away, and the morning traffic was light. I texted my mother that I was on my way, and she responded that she'd leave the garment bag with the front desk. But when I got to the hotel, there was a mix-up. My mother had forgotten to leave the bag. I called her room, and she sounded groggy and confused. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Just come up and get it. Room 412. I went up, retrieved the bag, and headed back down. On my way out, I stopped at a coffee shop and grabbed lattes for the bridal party. It was going to be a good day. A great day. The best day. I got back to my apartment around 8:30. I was still planning to head to the venue by 9 to start getting ready with Sarah and the other bridesmaids, but I wanted to hang the dress properly and make sure it hadn't gotten wrinkled in transport. I unlocked the door and stepped inside, juggling the garment bag and the tray of coffees. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. And then I heard it. Laughter. Coming from my bedroom. My stomach dropped. Daniel was supposed to be at his brother's place. He wasn't supposed to be here. I set the coffees down on the kitchen counter very carefully. My hands were shaking. There was a logical explanation. There had to be. Maybe he'd come back to get something. Maybe he'd brought his brother with him. Maybe. I walked down the hallway toward the bedroom. The door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open, and my entire world shattered. Sarah was standing in front of my full-length mirror, wearing my wedding dress. My wedding dress. The one I'd tried on just yesterday. The one that was supposed to be at my mother's hotel. And Daniel was standing next to her, his hand on her waist, both of them smiling at their reflection. They looked like a couple. They looked like a bride and groom. They looked like they belonged together. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The three of us frozen in a tableau of betrayal so complete, so devastating, that my mind couldn't process it. Then Sarah saw me in the mirror. Her face went white. "Emma!" Daniel spun around. "Emma, wait, this isn't... What the fuck is this?" My voice didn't sound like my own. It was low, dangerous, shaking with fury. "Emma, please, let me explain," Sarah said, reaching up to grab the dress, as if to take it off, as if that would somehow fix this. "Don't you dare take that off," I hissed. "Don't you fucking dare. I want to look at you. I want to see exactly what kind of person you are." Tears were streaming down her face. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." "How long?" I looked at Daniel. "How long has this been going on?" He couldn't meet my eyes. "Emma! How long?" "6 months," Sarah whispered. 6 months. 6 months of lies. 6 months of betrayal. 6 months of them together while I planned a wedding. While I picked out flowers and tasted cakes and addressed invitations. 6 months, I repeated numbly. 6 months. "It wasn't supposed to happen," Daniel said, finally looking at me. "We didn't plan it. It just what? It just happened? You just accidentally fell into bed together? You just accidentally betrayed me for half a year?" "We tried to stop," Sarah said, her voice breaking. "We tried, but we couldn't. Emma, I'm so sorry, but I love him. I'm in love with him." I laughed. It was a horrible sound, jagged and broken. "You love him, my fiancé, the man I'm supposed to marry in 8 hours, the man I've been with for 3 years. You love him." "I never meant for you to find out like this," she said. "How was I supposed to find out? At the altar, on our honeymoon, never?" Neither of them answered. "Did you fuck him?" I asked Sarah. "In my bed? In our home?" She closed her eyes. That was answer enough. "Get out," I said quietly. "Both of you, get the fuck out of my apartment." "Emma, please." Daniel stepped toward me. "Let's talk about this. Let's figure this out. Figure this out? I stared at him. There's nothing to figure out. You're a liar and a cheat, and she's a backstabbing whore. That's all there is to figure out. Don't call her that, he said. And that was what broke me. Not the affair, not the betrayal, but the fact that he was defending her, protecting her, choosing her. You love her, I said. It wasn't a question. He didn't answer, but I saw it in his eyes. How long have you loved her? I don't know, he said. Maybe always. Maybe from the first time we met. The first time they met, I'd introduced them. At a dinner party 2.5 years ago. I'd been so excited for my boyfriend and my best friend to finally meet. I'd wanted them to love each other the way I loved them both. And they had. Just not the way I'd meant. All this time, I said. All this time, you've been lying to me. Planning a future with me while being in love with her. How could you? How could you ask me to marry you? I thought I could get over her, he said. I thought if I committed to you, if I married you, I could make myself stop feeling this way. But I can't. I can't stop loving her. So you were going to marry me anyway, even though you're in love with someone else? That's your defense? I do love you, he said desperately. Emma, I do. Just not the way. Not the way you love her. I get it. I looked at Sarah, still standing there in my dress, tears ruining her makeup. Did you help him pick out my ring? She nodded miserably. Did you help him plan the proposal? Another nod. And the whole time, you were sleeping with him. You were in my apartment, drinking my wine, listening to me talk about how much I loved him, how excited I was to marry him, and you were fucking him behind my back. I hated myself, she sobbed. Every day, I hated myself, but I couldn't stop. Emma, I couldn't stop. You could have told me. You could have been honest. Either of you. At any point in the last 6 months, you could have told me the truth. We were going to, Daniel said. After the wedding. We were going to tell you after the wedding. I laughed again. That same broken sound. After the wedding. After you'd made vows to me in front of everyone we know. After I'd legally bound myself to you. That was your plan? We didn't have a plan, Sarah said. We were just trying to get through it, trying to figure out what to do. Well, congratulations. You don't have to figure it out anymore. The wedding is off. You can have him, you can have each other, and you can both get the fuck out of my life. Emma! Daniel reached for me. Don't touch me, I jerked back. Don't you ever touch me again. Where will you go? Sarah asked. What will you do? That's not your concern anymore. You stopped being my friend the day you decided to fuck my fiancé. I never stopped being your friend, she said. I love you, Emma. I still love you. You don't know what love is, I said. Love doesn't betray. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't put on someone's wedding dress and play pretend bride with their fiancé. I walked over to her, and she flinched. Good. She should be afraid of me. Take off my dress, I said quietly. Emma, take it off. She fumbled with the zipper, her hands shaking, and Daniel moved to help her. I watched as he gently, tenderly helped her out of my wedding dress. The dress I was supposed to wear today. The dress I was supposed to wear when I married him. Sarah stood there in her underwear, crying, clutching the dress to her chest. Give it to me, I said. She handed it over. I took the dress, walked to my closet, and pulled out a pair of scissors. Emma, no, Daniel said. Don't. I looked him dead in the eye and cut into the silk. The sound of tearing fabric was the most satisfying thing I'd ever heard. I cut and cut and cut until the dress was nothing but scraps of ivory silk and lace on my bedroom floor. There, I said. Now get out. Both of you. Now. They scrambled to get dressed. Sarah pulled on her clothes, and Daniel grabbed his shoes from by the bed. My bed. Where he'd slept with her. Where he'd held her. Where he'd loved her while pretending to love me. At the door, Sarah turned back. Emma, I'm so... If you say you're sorry one more time, I will lose my mind. Get out. Get out and don't ever contact me again, either of you. They left. I heard the front door close. I heard their footsteps in the hallway. I heard the elevator ding, and then I was alone. I stood in my bedroom, surrounded by the ruins of my wedding dress, and I felt nothing. Absolutely nothing. The shock had numbed everything. The pain would come later, I knew. But for now, there was only emptiness. My phone started ringing. My mother. I didn't answer. It rang again. Rachel. I didn't answer. Text messages started flooding in. From bridesmaids asking where I was. From the venue asking about setup. From the photographer confirming the timeline. I turned off my phone. I sat down on my bed, the bed I'd shared with Daniel, and I tried to figure out what to do next. The wedding was supposed to start in 7 hours. Over 100 people were expecting to watch me marry the love of my life. I needed to cancel it. I needed to tell people. I needed to deal with deposits and flowers and a fucking 3-tier cake. But I couldn't move. I couldn't think. I couldn't do anything but sit there and stare at the shredded remains of my wedding dress. Eventually, I turned my phone back on. Missed calls, 53 missed calls, countless text messages, and one new message from an unknown number. I opened it. It was a photo of Sarah and Daniel, taken months ago, from the looks of it. They were at a restaurant, sitting close together, holding hands across the table. They looked happy, in love. Below the photo was a message. I thought you should know. I'm sorry. Jess. Jess. Daniel's coworker. The one who'd always been a little too friendly with him. The one I'd jokingly called his work wife. She'd known. All this time, she'd known. How many other people knew? How many people had been watching me plan my wedding, knowing it was a lie? I started laughing. I couldn't help it. The absurdity of it all. The cruelty. The cosmic joke. I laughed until I cried, and then I cried until I couldn't breathe. When I finally stopped, when the tears dried up and the laughter faded, I realized something. I was done. Done crying over people who didn't deserve my tears. Done being a victim. Done letting them ruin my life. I picked up my phone and started making calls. First, the venue. The wedding is canceled. I'll forfeit the deposit. Just please don't let anyone set up. Then the photographer, the florist, the caterer, the DJ. Everyone asked why, and I gave them the same answer. Personal reasons. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Then I called my mother. Emma, where are you? What's happening? The venue says, the wedding is off, Mom. Silence. Then, what? Daniel was having an affair. With Sarah, for 6 months. I caught them this morning. He's in love with her. The wedding is off. More silence. Then quietly, where are you? Home. I'm coming over. No, Mom, I need to be alone right now. Emma. Please, I promise I'm okay. I just need time. Okay. Her voice was thick with tears. Okay. But call me if you need anything. Anything at all. I will. I hung up and sent a mass text to the bridal party and close family. Wedding canceled. Daniel and I are no longer together. I'm sorry for any inconvenience. Please don't contact me for a while. I need space. Then I blocked Sarah's number, and Daniel's. And then I sat there, in my empty apartment, and I thought about what came next. I could fall apart. I could let this destroy me. I could spend the next year crying and drinking and wondering what I did wrong. Or I could do something else. I could choose myself. For the first time in 3 years, I could choose myself. I stood up and walked to my closet. I pulled out a suitcase and started packing. Clothes, toiletries, my laptop, my passport. I'd always wanted to go to Italy, to Tuscany, to drink wine in the countryside and eat fresh pasta and lose myself in the beauty of somewhere far away from here. Daniel and I had talked about going there for our honeymoon, but we'd ultimately decided on Bali because it was cheaper. Fuck Bali. I was going to Italy, by myself, with the money I'd saved for the honeymoon. I booked a flight that night, one way to Rome. I packed up everything I couldn't bear to leave behind and had it shipped to my mother's house. I left my engagement ring on the kitchen counter with a note. Give it to Sarah. She earned it. And then, I left. I left the apartment. Left the life I'd built. Left the person I'd been. At the airport, I bought a bottle of wine from duty free and drank it on the plane. A woman in the seat next to me asked if I was celebrating something. My escape, I said, raising the bottle. I'm celebrating my escape. She laughed and clinked her own miniature bottle against mine. To escape. To escape. When I landed in Rome, it was early morning. The sun was just rising, painting the city in shades of gold and pink. I stood outside the airport, breathing in the foreign air. And I felt it. Freedom. For 3 years, I'd defined myself by Daniel. By us. By the future we were building together. I'd lost myself in him, in loving him, in being loved by him. But that person was gone now. That Emma, the one who believed in happily ever after, and soulmates and forever, she died the moment I saw Sarah in my wedding dress. And in her place was someone new. Someone I didn't know yet. Someone who was scared and angry and heartbroken. But also someone who was free. I spent 3 months in Italy. I stayed in small towns and big cities. I ate too much pasta and drank too much wine. I went to museums and churches and walked until my feet ached. I cried. God, I cried. Late at night in empty hotel rooms, I cried for the life I'd lost, for the love I'd believed in, for the friend who'd betrayed me. But I also laughed. I met people. I had adventures. I kissed a man in Florence who told me I was beautiful. I learned to make fresh pasta from a grandmother in a tiny village. I watched the sunset from the Amalfi Coast and felt, for the first time in months, at peace. I didn't check social media. I didn't call home except to let my mother know I was alive. I existed in a bubble where Sarah and Daniel didn't exist, where the wedding that never happened was just a bad dream. But eventually, I ran out of money. And eventually, I had to go home. When I landed back in New York, it was winter. The city was cold and gray, a stark contrast to the warmth of Italy. My mother picked me up from the airport. She took one look at me and burst into tears. "You look different," she said, hugging me tightly. "I am different," I said. "Good." She drove me to her house in Ohio, where she'd set up the guest room for me. All my things were there, the boxes I'd shipped from New York, waiting to be unpacked. "You don't have to rush," she said. "Take your time. Figure out what you want to do next." What I wanted to do next, I had no idea. I'd quit my job before leaving for Italy, unable to face going back to an office where everyone knew about the wedding. I'd let my lease lapse, unable to live in an apartment full of ghosts. I was 30 years old, single, unemployed, and living with my mother. It should have felt like failure, but somehow, it felt like a beginning. I spent the winter in Ohio, healing. I went to therapy. I took long walks. I read books I'd been meaning to read for years. I reconnected with old friends from high school. And slowly, the pain began to fade. It never went away completely. There were still nights when I woke up crying. Still moments when I saw something that reminded me of Daniel or Sarah and felt that sharp stab of betrayal all over again. But those moments became fewer and farther between. In the spring, I got a call from Jess, Daniel's co-worker, the one who'd sent me the photo. "I wanted to check on you," she said. "I've been thinking about you." "I'm okay," I said. "Thank you for telling me, even if it was too late." "I should have told you sooner," she said. "I saw them together a few times. I knew something was off, but I didn't want to get involved. I'm sorry." "It's not your fault," I said, and I meant it. "Can I tell you something?" she asked. "You don't have to care, but I thought you'd want to know." "Okay." "They're not together anymore, Daniel and Sarah. They broke up a month after you left. I should have felt satisfaction, vindication, something, but all I felt was tired." "What happened?" I asked. "Turns out a relationship built on lies and betrayal isn't very stable," she said dryly. "Who knew? Sarah apparently couldn't handle the guilt. And Daniel realized that what he felt for her was more about the forbidden nature of it than actual love. It fell apart pretty quickly once they didn't have you to hide from anymore. Good, I said. I hope they're both miserable. Sarah called me a few weeks ago, Jess said. She wanted your number. She wants to apologize. I told her to go to hell. Thank you, I said. You deserve better than both of them, Emma. I hope you know that. I'm starting to. After we hung up, I sat with the news for a while. They'd broken up. The great love affair that had destroyed my life had lasted less than 2 months once it was out in the open. I wanted to feel something: anger, satisfaction, glee. But I just felt empty. They'd taken so much from me: my trust, my faith in love, my ability to believe that people are good. But they hadn't taken everything. They hadn't taken my strength, my resilience, my ability to rebuild. In the summer, I moved back to New York. Not to my old apartment, but to a new one in a different neighborhood, a place with no memories. I got a new job, made new friends, started building a new life. I dated, though I was wary, guarded. Every time someone got too close, I found reasons to push them away. 1 year after the wedding that never happened, I was having coffee with a new friend, Maya, when she asked me something that stopped me cold. Do you ever think about forgiving them? No, I said immediately. Never. Not for them, she said. For you. Holding on to anger like this, it's exhausting. I can see it in you. The way you flinch when people get too close. The way you test everyone to see if they'll betray you. You're still letting them control your life. I'm not, I protested. Aren't you? I wanted to argue. But she was right. A year later, and I was still building my life around their betrayal. Still letting it define me. Still letting them win. That night, I wrote 2 letters. One to Daniel, one to Sarah. I never sent them, but writing them helped. Putting all my anger and hurt and rage onto paper. Letting it out instead of keeping it locked inside. And at the end of each letter, I wrote the same thing. I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. I burned both letters in my kitchen sink and watched the smoke rise. It didn't fix everything. Forgiveness isn't a magic cure, but it was a start. 2 years after the wedding that never happened, I met someone. His name was Alex, and he was nothing like Daniel. He was blunt where Daniel had been smooth, rough around the edges where Daniel had been polished. He didn't sweep me off my feet or make grand romantic gestures. But he was honest. Painfully, brutally honest. On our 3rd date, he looked at me across the table and said, "You've been hurt before, badly, and you're terrified I'm going to do the same thing." "I don't know what you're talking about," I lied. "Yes, you do. And I get it. But I need you to know something. I'm not that guy. Whoever he was, whatever he did, I'm not him. And if you can't see that, if you can't give me a real chance, then we should end this now. Because I'm not interested in being punished for someone else's mistakes." I could have walked away. Could have added him to the list of almosts and maybes. But something in his eyes, in his honesty, made me stop. "His name was Daniel," I said. "He was my fiancé. He cheated on me with my best friend. I found them together the morning of our wedding, in my dress. And it broke something in me. I don't know how to trust people anymore. I don't know how to believe in love anymore." Alex was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached across the table and took my hand. "I can't promise I'll never hurt you," he said. "People hurt each other. It's part of being human. But I can promise I'll never lie to you. I'll never cheat. I'll never make you question your worth. And if you're willing to try, I'll do everything I can to show you that not everyone is like him." "Okay," I whispered. "Okay." It wasn't easy. There were times I sabotaged things, pushed him away, tested him to see if he'd leave. But he stayed. Every time I pulled back, he gave me space but didn't disappear. Every time I lashed out, he called me on it but didn't retaliate. Slowly, painfully, I learned to trust again. 3 years after the wedding that never happened, I ran into Sarah. I was in a bookstore in the village, browsing the fiction section, when I heard someone say my name. I turned, and there she was. She looked different, thinner, older, tired. Her hair was shorter, her clothes less carefully chosen. She looked like someone who'd been through something. Emma, she said again, her voice breaking. Hi. Hi. We stood there, two women who'd once been closer than sisters, now strangers. You look good, she said. You look happy. I am, I said, and I meant it. I'm glad. She paused. I've wanted to reach out so many times, to apologize, to explain, but I didn't think you'd want to hear from me. I didn't, I said. For a long time I didn't. And now? I considered the question. Did I want to hear her apology? Did I want to know why she did it? Did I want closure? Now, I said slowly, I don't need anything from you. I don't need your apology or your explanation. I don't need closure. I've moved on. Her face crumpled. I'm so sorry, Emma. I'm so sorry. Not a day goes by that I don't regret what I did. You were my best friend. You were my family, and I destroyed that. I destroyed us. Yes, I said. You did. Can you ever forgive me? I thought about the letters I'd burned 2 years ago. The peace I'd found in letting go. I already have, I said. Not for you, for me. But that doesn't mean I want you in my life. Some things can't be fixed, Sarah. Some betrayals are too deep. I understand. Tears were streaming down her face. I just want you to know that I loved you. I still love you. You were the best friend I ever had. And I threw it away for someone who didn't even love me back. And I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Good, I said. And I didn't say it cruelly. Just honestly. You should regret it. What you did was unforgivable. But it's not my job to carry your guilt. That's yours to bear. What happened to you? She asked. After you left? Where did you go? Italy, I said. I went to Italy, and I found myself again. The version of me that existed before Daniel. Before you. Before all of it. I'm glad, she said, and she sounded like she meant it. You deserved better than what we did to you. I did, I agreed. There was nothing else to say. We'd said everything that needed to be said. Goodbye, Sarah, I said. Goodbye, Emma. I walked away. Out of the bookstore, onto the street, into the rest of my life. And I didn't look back. 4 years after the wedding that never happened, Alex asked me to marry him. We were in our apartment, the one we'd moved into together 6 months earlier. It was a Sunday morning, and we were still in our pajamas, drinking coffee and reading the paper. Marry me, he said, looking up from the crossword puzzle. What? Marry me. I love you. I want to spend my life with you. So marry me. That's not a proposal, I said, my heart racing. That's a demand. Fine. He got down on one knee right there in our living room. No ring, no speech prepared. Emma, I love you. You're stubborn and difficult, and you test my patience daily. But you're also brave and strong, and you make me want to be a better person. I don't have a ring yet because I wanted to ask you what kind you wanted. I don't have a grand gesture because I know you'd hate that. But I do have a promise. I promise to be honest with you, always. I promise to choose you, every day. I promise to never make you doubt my love. So will you marry me? I looked at him, this man who'd broken through my walls, who'd shown me that love could be simple and honest and real. Yes, I said. Yes, I'll marry me. We got married 6 months later. Small wedding, just close friends and family. No bridal party, no elaborate dress. Just us, making promises to each other and meaning them. My mother cried. Alex's parents cried. I cried. But they were good tears. Happy tears. As I stood there, holding Alex's hands, saying vows that I actually believed in. I thought about that day 4 years ago. The day I found Sarah in my wedding dress. The day my world ended. It had felt, at the time, like the worst thing that could ever happen to me. But looking back now, I realized it was the best thing. If I'd married Daniel, I would have spent years with a man who didn't truly love me. I would have built a life on a foundation of lies. I would have wasted my 20s, maybe my 30s, maybe more, on someone who wasn't worth it. Sarah and Daniel didn't destroy my life. They saved me from a mistake. They freed me to find something real. It still hurt sometimes. There were still moments when I thought about the friendship I'd lost, the innocence I'd had before I learned that people could betray you so completely. But those moments were rare now. Brief flashes of old pain that no longer defined me. I'd built a new life, a better life, a life where I was loved truly, honestly, completely, and that was worth everything. 5 years after the wedding that never happened, I was pregnant with my first child. Alex and I were painting the nursery, debating over whether the color we'd chosen was too yellow or just yellow enough, when my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Emma, it's Rachel, Daniel's sister. I hadn't spoken to her since the day before my canceled wedding. She'd sent a few texts in the weeks after, checking on me, but I'd never responded. Rachel, I said carefully. Hi. I'm sorry to call out of the blue like this. I thought you should know. Daniel's getting married, next month. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. I felt nothing but mild curiosity. Okay, I said. Thank you for telling me. Are you okay? She asked. I'm fine, I said, and I was. I'm happy for him. I hope he's found what he's looking for. He has, I think. Her name is Jennifer. She's nice. Nothing like... She stopped herself. Nothing like Sarah, I finished. It's okay. You can say her name. It doesn't hurt anymore. Really? Really, I'm married now. Happily married, and I'm pregnant. I've moved on, Rachel. Completely. I'm so happy to hear that, she said, and she sounded like she meant it. You deserve all the happiness in the world, Emma. What Daniel did to you, what they both did, it was unforgivable. It was, I agreed. But I've forgiven them anyway, not because they deserved it, but because I deserved to let it go. You're a better person than I am, Rachel said. No, I said. I'm just a person who got tired of being angry. Tell Daniel I wish him well, truly. After I hung up, Alex came over and wrapped his arms around me from behind, his hands resting on my growing belly. Daniel's getting married, I said. How do you feel about that? I feel nothing, I said. Isn't that amazing? 5 years ago, the thought of him with someone else would have destroyed me. And now I feel nothing but relief that he's someone else's problem. Alex laughed and kissed my neck. That's my girl. I'm not that girl anymore, I said. The one who loved him. The one who believed in fairy tales. She died a long time ago. Good, Alex said. I like the woman she became much better. I turned in his arms and kissed him. Me too. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the healing, the joy. I thought about the woman I'd been 5 years ago, standing in my bedroom, surrounded by the ruins of my wedding dress. If I could go back and talk to her, what would I say? I'd tell her that it gets better, that the pain that feels unbearable now will fade, that she'll survive this. More than survive, she'll thrive. I'd tell her that Daniel and Sarah did her a favor, even though it doesn't feel that way now. That they showed her who they really were before it was too late. I'd tell her that she'll fall in love again. Real love this time. The kind that doesn't hide or lie or betray. I'd tell her that she'll find happiness again. Different than she imagined, but better. I'd tell her that she's stronger than she knows. Braver than she thinks. More resilient than she can imagine. But most of all, I'd tell her this. You will be okay. I promise. You will be more than okay. You will be free. And 5 years later, lying next to my husband, my hand on my growing belly, I knew it was true. I was free. I was happy. I was home. Not in a place or with a person, but in myself. And that was the greatest victory of all. The wedding that never happened didn't destroy me. It rebuilt me into someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who knew her own worth. Sarah and Daniel were chapters in my story, but they weren't the whole book. They weren't even the best chapters. The best chapters were the ones I wrote after, the ones where I learned to love myself, the ones where I found real love, the ones where I built a life that was truly mine. And those chapters were just beginning. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the universe protecting you from something worse. Sometimes betrayal is a blessing in disguise. Sometimes the end is really just the beginning. I know that now, and I'm grateful, not for the pain, not for the betrayal, but for the strength I found on the other side of it. For the woman I became when I had no choice but to rebuild myself from scratch. That woman me was worth fighting for. And I finally understood what I'd been searching for all along wasn't in Daniel or Sarah or any relationship. It was in me. It had always been in me. I just had to lose everything to find it. And now that I had, I was never letting it go. This is my story. The story of how I survived betrayal, how I rebuilt myself, how I found real love, how I became whole. It's not the story I thought I'd tell, the fairy tale I imagined on that day 5 years ago when I woke up excited to become someone's wife. It's better, because it's real, and it's mine, and it's true. And in the end, that's all that matters.